What's up, everyone? Scott the TroutHammer here. We got a beautiful day, surprisingly beautiful day for January here in Oregon, and today I want to talk to you about what in my mind is the best presentation to catch bass in the winter, and that is the Ned Rig. So you don't hear a lot of catches of bass in the wintertime, and you might be asking yourself, what's the reason for that? So during the wintertime, bass enter a hibernation mode like a lot of other animals do. That's why they feed up as much as they can to get as fat as they can during the fall feed season, so they can just sort of sit on the bottom and wait out the colder months. And during this time, they are really lethargic. They're not willing to chase down bait. They're waiting for something pretty easy, an opportunity to just be presented right in front of them. They don't move around very much, and their metabolism slows down. They digest food a lot slower, so they're not eating as often, where during the fall feed, pre-spawn, or even times during the summer, bass would be feeding 1 to 2 times a day. Now bass are feeding 1 to 2 times a month. No kidding, it's that infrequent. And the biggest thing with that, with their metabolism slowing down, where they would have been eating things this big, now they're going for things that big. So for example, any time of the year where you would be usually throwing a 5-inch Senko, now you should be throwing a 3-inch Senko. So during the wintertime, those finesse presentations are going to be a lot more effective at catching bass, and that's where enters the Ned Rig. So the Ned Rig is super simple, it's idiot proof. It's just a small jig on a 3-inch Senko, or you could take a 5-inch Senko, cut it in half and use that. I'll show you how to rig one up here. So this is a finesse presentation that works with a lot of different plastics, works with a lot of different jig heads. I recommend that you get a jig head that has a flat head, not a round head, because the Ned Rig is something you want more to stand up and be upright as you slow drag it across the bottom. A rounded jig head isn't going to do that very much. You could use any plastic, like I said, but if you ask me, the best plastic for the Ned Rig is the Finesse TRD from Z-Man. They're the perfect size, perfect profile for a Ned Rig, but also these things are buoyant. They float on their own, so the jig is going to stand up a lot more easily with a Finesse TRD online. And also, these things are indestructible. These things do not tear. I've got Z-Man plastics I've been using for like 3 years, caught dozens of fish on, still using those plastics. They're that durable. So just like rigging anything else up on a jig head, what you want to do is you want to sort of measure where your hook's going to come out. It's going to come out about 1 inch on there, pretty much where the ribbed edges of the Finesse TRD end. Just thread it through the nose of your plastic, turn it out at that point, slide it on the shank, and there you go. One Ned Rig ready to fish. So I got you guys here at one of my local ponds. I'm also going to take you guys out on the water and show you how you should fish the Ned Rig. All right, let's see. Hopefully we came on a day when the bass are feeding. So as I already explained, the Ned Rig is a finesse presentation, so you want to use finesse gear. Lighter gear, I've got a 6.5 foot medium action rod, 10-pound braided line as the main line. I've got this tied right on the braid because the water's pretty cloudy. Don't need the invisibility of monofilament or fluorocarbon. So let that get all the way down to the bottom, because this is something you're just going to slowly drag across the bottom, and that's all you're going to do. Just slowly drag it along. And incorporate pauses. Remember, this is the winter time. Bass aren't really willing to chase bait down. They want something to come to them, a really advantageous free meal for them. And pay attention to your line too. A lot of the times when you get bites during the winter and when fishing a Ned Rig, the bass is just literally picking it up in its mouth and not moving. So that's when you got to feel that the fish has the bait in its mouth, reel up to the fish, and then set the hook. You know, a lot of times when I'm fishing a Ned Rig, I'll reel it in just like maybe a couple inches, and then I'll sit here with my finger on the line feeling for a bite while it's just sitting there on the bottom. So, you know, you look at the Ned Rig, you look at something like that, you figure, what is that supposed to imitate? That's going to imitate small creatures on the bottom, so like, you know, worms, crawdads, any sort of like small sucker fish that'll be on the bottom also, and also those smaller juvenile fish that look like they're just feeding on the bottom and just kind of hopping along, digging stuff out. That's something bass are going to look for an easy meal during the winter. And when I said slow drag this across the bottom, I meant that slow drag this. It's supposed to be that, just a slow drag. I mean, this is your real pace. That slow. And you want to incorporate as many pauses as possible. You want your cast to last as long as possible, because the Ned Rig during the winter, that's where it has the drawing power, the suspension. Something just sitting there not moving, it drives bass nuts. Especially if it's right in front of them and they're hungry. Just think of it this way, if you're not bored, you're fishing too fast. So yeah, there you guys go. Hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you haven't fished the Ned Rig before, or if you haven't heard of it before, you know, didn't catch anything today, but you know, we keep having weather like this. I figure give it maybe 2 more weeks and we might start seeing some fish activity here in the Mid-Willamette Valley. You know, if you guys found this video useful, if you guys learned something from this video, please leave a like on your way out. If you're a new viewer, don't forget to subscribe, because that's how you're going to see all the great content that's going to come on this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, tips up, tight lines, and have fun fishing.